right, we're back with a flated video here. So one of the biggest comments I got when I installed the flated topper, when I use it, is what do you do about your third brake light? Because once you install the flated topper, let's just take a look at it real quick, it does in fact block your third brake light, and this is all the models, they will all do that. So I have never had any issues with Jonny Law as far as not being able to see that, because I really run this as kind of a temporary solution, not a long-term thing. But Flated did come out with a kit that allows you to keep Jonny Law happy. So that's what we're going to be installing today. So basically what this kit allows you to do is run a third brake light while you're running your flated topper, but keeping in the name of modularity, the kit does pop off just as easy as a top if you ever want to go back to running a tonneau cover or not running the flated at all. But anyway, what comes in the kit? Obviously the front and center is the light itself, and the light itself essentially just attaches right here on the outside of the flated in between the Velcro tabs. So what we're going to do is pull up this, we're going to attach our the light mount here. You got soft side Velcro on one side, you got hard side on the back side here, and then we're going to run our wire down this way over here, and then we're going to tap into our driver's side taillight, and that's where we're going to pull our running signal, our brake signal, and our ground for this little harness. This harness ultimately stays installed on the truck, and then when you're not running the flated topper, you just kind of tuck it away. When you are running it, you run the wire up, over, and then you just attach it with this little twist lock plug. So there's 3 prongs in there for the 3 wires, and that's what plugs in there. Just nice and easy connection, waterproof, very easy to make it, and then it's a small enough wire that it stays enough out of the way. Also in the kit, you get some zip ties as well as some side taps. I'm gonna use a little bit different side taps because I'm a big fan of posi taps, but these do come in the kit. So if you are gonna plan on using these guys, you're gonna need pliers. The other tool you're going to need is an 8mm socket, because these are 8mm nuts here. So to get the video started, let's go ahead and pull off the driver's side taillight, and this is where we're going to attach this little wire harness to get our signals from. I'll walk you through the wire colors and everything on my particular truck, and then we'll get everything installed and we'll take a look at the final product. Should be a very simple product here. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna find these 8mm bolts here, and we're gonna go ahead and remove those. These are the only 2 bolts holding the tail light on. Once we get these undone, it's pretty simple to pull the tail light out. There we go. All right, so once we get the tail light off the truck, just go ahead and remove this connector here, because that's what we're going to be focused on, and we can set the taillight aside so we don't destroy it or accidentally damage it. All right, so once you get your taillight off, the next thing you want to do is cut off some of the loom that's wrapped up on the driver's side harness here, and we're going to put that off to the side because we're going to tap into these 3 wires right here. So purple with green, black with yellow, and then white with green, and I'll walk through what those are in a minute because I definitely forgot. But before we do that, what we need to do is run our harness from the taillight housing or taillight section into the cab of the truck. The reason you can't run it from, or I'm sorry, into the bed of the truck. The reason you can't run it from the bed of the truck into the housing is because there's a fuse here on the brake light circuit, and it doesn't fit through the holes that I'm going to use. So on the inside of the truck, there's a hole right there that I'm going to run the wires into. So the wires are going to come from the housing side, and they're going to poke through. So I'm just going to use a piece of straight wire here just to kind of act as the fish tape, tape it on there, and then we're going to run this portion into the bed of the truck so that we can connect this up to the harness here. All right, so we got our wire fed through. It is neatly and carefully hung up out of the way currently in the bed of the truck, and what I like about that hole that I use versus the other ones that you have as far as options is it's tucked out of the way and nothing's going to get tangled on it, and it gives you a nice straight run up the side of the flated topper, because ultimately after we connect it, we're going to need to make sure that that wire runs from the center down and then down here connecting. Anyway, now we're in the into the harness here. So like I said, cut the tape off of here, remove some of that loom. You want access to these 3 wires right here. So black with yellow is your ground, so you're going to connect the black wire on the flated harness to this guy. White with a green tracer, that's your brake. That's going to connect to the red wire. And then purple with a, I believe that's a green tracer here, is going to connect to your yellow, and that's your running light. So there is a fuse on the brake light. Make sure you keep that in place. We're going to go ahead and strip these and then tap them in there. Again, the kit comes with side taps. These guys, these crimp on there. They're more of a permanent connection. I'm going to go ahead and use posi taps. I just think it's easier, particularly on these really tight harnesses, but both options will work. Just take your time doing them. And then after you go ahead and connect it, tape up everything. Just make sure it's bundled up nicely so you don't got wires rattling around. So the other thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take these wires and actually run them through the larger hole here. And it's pretty easy. You can reach right up in there. All right, so we have our connections here, and I'm just gonna tape up everything once I'm done and after we confirm the wiring and everything. But one good way to test it before you run all the cabling is go ahead and plug in the light before you even run all that stuff up to where it needs to go. And then what we're gonna do is just hit unlock. And what you'll see here is a little bit of a sequence pattern, and that's quite a surprise. I honestly thought this was just gonna be a steady running light, steady brake light, but looks like there's some cool stuff going on with it. Anyways, now that we know that this thing's working properly, we can go ahead and close up everything over here. Let's just tape up everything, zip tie, so we don't have wires bouncing around. Now the reason you see the wires coming up through the top, so basically I ran it into this opening, and then there's an opening right here, and that's where the wires are at. I'm just gonna zip tie it to this edge right here. I'll put some protector there so it's not gonna chafe on the edge of this metal, but it's not too sharp. And then we'll just zip tie up everything, keep it clean in there. All right, got our taillight put back together, got our wire run out here. So now we are good to go to start running everything. So what you wanna do is ultimately this guy needs to land right there. We're gonna pull the Velcro off, we're gonna put this guy into place, and we're gonna take all this excess wiring and we're gonna tuck it above the Velcroing on the outside. And then at some point in here, we're gonna pop it through into the bed of the truck so that we could drape it down. I don't know exactly the route we're gonna use just yet, but it is very simple. It's just a lot of Velcro that we're pulling on and off to figure out what's the best route. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And then when we get back to it, I'll show you the exact route I took. But ultimately, like I said, this guy's gonna land right there. All right, so here is our cable popping through the truck bed side, and then I run it up through the little tie down here. I tuck it up into Velcro, and then it runs right across the top, and you can see the back side of our light right here. Make sure the light is on the outside of the rear window, not on the inside. All right, so here's the exterior view of that light. Now, one cool thing is if I go ahead, let's just say we lock the truck here. Now let's unlock it. That's when you get that pretty cool sequence there. Anyway, got my helper inside. Right, go ahead and hit the brake. So when you hit the brake, there you go, you get your brake lights. Now we are legal with our flated topper. So anyway, that's how you install the third brake light kit on your flated topper with a Gen 3 Raptor or 2021 and newer F-150. The wiring color should be pretty similar across all those model years. It will be different as it gets into older trucks or newer trucks for obvious reasons. But anyway, if you have any questions, let me know. I will leave a link to this kit down in the description below. A little bit of a retrofit here. Theoretically, if you are picking up a flated topper, I would just suggest getting this guy from day one, so that way you don't have any issues when you're driving around. I haven't, but again, this is a nice safeguard. But anyway, closing this one out. Thank you very much for watching. Appreciate it. Bye.